welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name's John Lester, and in this episode we'll be talking about the benefits of integrating our work and private life on the productivity of those people involved. I'm joined today by Franziska Dolak, an Innovation Manager at Siemens Smart Infrastructure. Franziska, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
We've talked before about different dimensions of productivity in our understanding. What is the second dimension that you identified through your work?
So the second dimension I find personally a super interesting one. So it's about the integration of private and work life. Because traditionally, if you read in literature, it's always about this balance between work life and private life. And we really found there's not much of a balance going on. It's really more about how can those two really complement each other and work well together.
Yeah, because when you talk about balance, you expect that you never do work when you're at home and you never live life when you're at work.
Exactly.
And what did you find when you started to really look into this topic?
So what we found is once again really looking at it from a holistic perspective that usually stuff that I have to manage in my private life also happens between the hours of, let's say, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever time span you want to take. Like it may just be, coordinating a doctor's appointment or whatever. But in any case, right, I'm still me when going to work. I'm not just Franziska, the innovation manager. And having said that, we found that for many people, this combination of private and work life, or this, since it's not combined, since it's very much in a way actually separated, is making it very difficult to focus on the work at hand. And I think you can really take even another example of the building and its surroundings. We really found that people want to be part and connect to the neighborhood that they work and also actually live in, right? Because it's more of a life at work potentially even. And so the question was, how could we make this outside world, whether it's the doctor's appointment, finding also food that fits my dietary restrictions for lunch, actually make easy available so it's not taking people out of their flow of work.
Yeah, and this could spread to not just the space around, but also the tools and the interactions with colleagues.
Yes, 100%, and really also fitting to whatever I feel right I need in my private life. Could be being able to join, a great session where someone has released a book on how to transform organizations that I might be very well interested in. So it can really go into various aspects and also be a great source for organizations to actually learn about what can we as an employer actually do, understanding better our people's needs, where we can at least offer them either an easier touch point or connection point towards those offerings, or even incorporating some of those into whatever I'm providing in terms of services, infrastructure, and so on for my employees.
It's a really interesting point that you made that, if we talk or we look at an employer and they have the aspiration to provide a better environment and a more productive place, they have to know their employees as people first. And if they are just, like we spoke before, if they're just a number in a spreadsheet or they assume as everyone is the same, they have no opportunity to do this.
Yes, and then also currently you have to actually admit it's super difficult understanding, what really drives my people, what motivates my people, what are they all about, right? Because it's super difficult being able to get to know each and every one of them, which is also maybe sometimes I don't want to share everything about me in my work life, right? Yeah. So I think it's kind of a give and take. But nonetheless, having said that, providing easy means of understanding what are people talking about potentially, what are they interested in, what are they also looking for, what are the things come up, being able to make them transparent, and thus giving somebody else on those actionable insights, being able to actually trigger action, and then being able to provide a service or connect to something, or even just offer some reductions on whatever, so people, it's made easier, so you can lower barriers, and thus you can tremendously increase your employee satisfaction, and thus also actually productivity, which in the first step might sound like, wow, that's crazy. But it's actually true, because if I feel like you're an employer that's really taking care of my well-being and also helping me manage myself as a person in the context of my private and my work life, I think the probability is a lot higher that I will actually stay on and also be willing to actually contribute more to the organizational context.
And that's the important point, isn't it? In the end, if we're comfortable and we're happy and we feel like we're surrounded by peers that we care about, that we know better, we will effectively, without even trying to be more productive.
Yes, and I think that's a lot about also being able to be myself in my work environment, right? Not having to hide the fact that I have a family maybe that I need to take care of. And I think that that's a very, very important part if you really look into fairness, that really in whatever context you're in, even beyond the work life, that everyone is really being able to be him or herself that's just a value that's for me tremendous.
And it feels like one of these topics that if you made some small steps, you would really gain momentum, because as you feel comfortable and you feel more open to sharing more of yourself personally with your peers and your colleagues, the next step would be a larger step and larger again. And before you knew it, you could really get some momentum within the organization to make these changes.
Yeah. And you also get coming away from an environment. I oftentimes hear, especially leaders, complaining would be tough to say, but saying, right, hey, we try to offer so much, but at the same time, very little is coming back.
Yeah.
And I think especially this of where you create a platform for give and take, you really create a place where people can co-create their own environment. So it's not dependent on single people anymore that are maybe responsible for managing the building or whatever, but it really becomes a community effort. And
that's huge.
That just can make it better.
and a huge change from the traditional mindset, which was to get the most out of our employees, we have to cut them off from their home life. Yeah. For every minute that they're here, ensure that they're at their desk, ensure that they're working, they're not reading the newspaper or looking at their social media, and by forcing this focus, you get productivity. But in the end, this is the opposite. If you really want to inspire people to be productive rather than force them, you have to give them the opportunity to be themselves and to interact with their space in a personal manner.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
And thank you all for joining us here on Buildings of Tomorrow. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and also subscribe to us here on this channel. We'll see you again soon.